Welcome to Big Blend Radio, where we celebrate variety and how it adds spice to quality of life. Welcome, everyone. We are continuing our Big Blend Radio Memorial Day and Military Appreciation Month programming with guests that are all connected by soldiers, angels, and the world of travel. So we're going to start off with Joelle Machia and Ryan Slough, who call in from Turkey. They are known as the Wanderer's Compass. They founded that blog after they connected through the organization called Soldiers Angels. Soldiers Angels does amazing work, and Joelle sent Ryan a huge box of goodies through them while he was on active duty. From there, they connected and started their travel blog called Wanderer's Compass. After our conversation with them, we go to Arkansas and North Carolina. In North Carolina, Asheville, the wonderful city of Asheville, we chat with Steve and Karen Wilson, who are the owners and operators of the Lion and the Rose Bed and Breakfast. And in Arkansas, we go just outside Hot Springs to chat with Tiffany Bertram. Her and her husband Bob own and run Tiffany's Bed and Breakfast. These innkeepers, of course, are in the world of travel, but also support veterans through Soldiers Angels and another program that is all about giving away a free night or discounted night to veterans, and that usually happens over Veterans Day. I think we chat with these innkeepers every single year, and it's amazing to see them continue this program, which really focuses on helping veterans of today and those who are on active duty. So take a listen, and remember, Military Appreciation Month is a year-round thing. So we're going to continue our Memorial Day programming with Ryan Slough and Joelle Machia. Both of them are the publishers and founders of Wanderer's Compass. It's an awesome blog that you can go to, wandererscompass.com, that will take you around the world. They have traveled all over together, and how they met is a really unique story. I'm going to even put a link to their very first episode of their new podcast with us called, guess what? Wanderer's Compass. It airs every second Monday. And the way they met really goes with what we're talking about in regards to appreciating the military and doing something to show appreciation, and then how far those relationships can grow. They've traveled the world, they've traveled the country, and they're not stopping. And so go to their website and follow them on social media, because every Wednesday they have what's called Warrior Wednesday. And so they post different posts about, right now where are you, in Istanbul? Like I said, where are you now? Yeah.
We are in Bursa, Turkey, which is about 2 hours south of Istanbul, well, southeast of Istanbul. So we are in Turkey for the first time. This is Ryan's 51st country and my 54th. So it's definitely a fun to be at a place so different and so new to us.
This is awesome. So Ryan, you're not in Constantinople or anywhere close?
Not anymore.
Okay. But you were there.
The ancestry of it, maybe. But we just left that yesterday and got here and exploring some more stuff. And we just went to this old Byzantine Empire town up in the hills. Beautiful little markets and colorful buildings and stuff. So it's pretty awesome to see a lot of this history I know little about. So.
Yeah, I love this. I love that you guys are even, connecting in. This is fantastic about technology. Of course, it doesn't work at times, which I've, had my joys with. But when it works, isn't it amazing that we can do this? When you think about it.
It is amazing. It is.
And don't we thank the military, Ryan, for the internet?
I would have to Google that.
Oh, yes, the internet. The military had the internet before we did. This is way pre-Google times.
Mouses, with wire remotes and stuff, and there's a million different things that we could thank them for, I think.
And M&Ms not melting in your pockets. M&Ms, they're crucial. They're crucial to life, right? Do you guys travel with snacks? I know this has nothing to do with Memorial Day, but do you travel with your own snacks just in case? Because sometimes we miss restaurants being open and things.
I do. I don't think Ryan does too much as much, but
Not very
but then
often.
when he travels with me, he knows I have some. So I mean, just in
Ah,
those long drives, like today, I always like to have when I travel internationally. And initially Ryan thought I was crazy, but he actually likes these a lot too. Is I love paprika potato chips, and it's funny because I don't like regular potato chips, and you can't buy paprika potato chips in the United States. And today I found a big bag of them when we were walking around Bursa, and actually, it was like $1 for a bag that would in the U.S. cost $6, and it was Lay's paprika chips, so one of
no
our
way.
brands, but we don't sell them in the U.S. So those are snacks we pick up often when we're in
Hmm.
international destinations because it's the only place we can find them. But we always have lots of bottled water and always use some nuts or stuff like that just to give us some energy in case we just have a very long drive. But yes, we are definitely always have snacks.
Well, you see, now I want fruit chutney potato chips or crisps, as we say. I adore fruit chutney crisp. I have
Really, I
not
don't think
had
I've had
them.
those.
I think when you go
Fruit,
to England, yeah, fruit chutney. So
fruit.
like, yeah, fruit chutney. I think that's why I eat so much salsa, is that I'm used to like those kind of things always being part of a meal in South Africa and England. Like, salt and vinegar chips. Oh yes, bring them.
Mm-hmm.
Bring it
Those are
on.
yummy.
Oh yes, I'll take vinegar on all of it. It gets
Yes,
close to
love that.
wine, that's why. But this is where we're going with the food. See, I've got a good segue, is because you met through food. Isn't that right, Joelle?
Yeah, yes, in a roundabout way, but absolutely. So how Orion and I met many years ago, actually, it's going on our 19th year that we met was I was listening to a broadcast in Seattle, a local radio show, Ron and Don show at the time, and they started talking about a program because at the time we were at war both in Afghanistan and Iraq. And they said, we've got all these young men and women over there who are sort of, feel some of them unsupported. They don't have families sending them stuff. And we heard about this program called Soldiers Angels, and they just thought it was wonderful. They interviewed someone from it, and they in that program at the time they would ask someone in the public, like myself at that time, to adopt a soldier. It could be a man or woman in any branch that was currently deployed in a war setting. So at the time would have been Iraq or Afghanistan, and you would commit to adopting this person. They were very clear this is not a dating service. This is not to meet anybody for any other purpose than to send them. And they were very clear about that. You commit to a letter or a postcard every week and a package a month. And that's what, I was like, this sounds wonderful. I had always, though I know no military history in my family, I've always been incredible respect for people who serve their country. The courage, the commitment, the sacrifice has always been something that meant a lot to me. And I thought this sounds like just my thing. So I signed up for it, made promised those commitments and so forth. They said, you may never hear from your soldier, and that's fine. We'll tell you when they come home. And so you can stop sending stuff. But, again, this is about you supporting them. And so my first soldier, and I ended up having 8 over the years, Ryan was my first. And I got his name, and I immediately sent him a letter, and I sent him a package, I think the first days after I got his name. And the package was full of food, just food, every snack you could imagine, because I was researching, what do you send these guys? What do they really want? And since not
M&Ms.
knowing him, yeah, exact candy. I mean, name it. It was like the biggest box I could get at the post office that you would send in that one price, thing, the largest one. And I packed it full, and I sent a letter separately along with that. And then I didn't hear anything for a while because, as you can imagine, things took a while. And then Ryan could step in here and sort of how it's interesting. He got the package before he got the letter. So the
Oh,
letter didn't come till a long time after, though I'd put a small note in the package. It wasn't the introduction and, hey, tell me what you like and so forth. But both things had my emails. And then so
ah,
he reached out to me and said, thank you and so forth. And we just started talking. And one thing they advised you at Soldiers Angels is never ask anything of them, like, hey, I want to meet you. They said, don't talk about yourself or your problems. This is about them. And so, we just started chatting, and he would write me more, and we never talked on the phone or anything. It was all via email. And over time, we just developed a bond. I ended up sending packages quite a bit more often because once he told me what he wanted, books or CDs or DVDs of movies he wanted to see, clothes, socks, anything you can think of. If you wanted, I was happy to send to him. And then when we came toward, he was there 15 months. So it was a long deployment. And at the end, just by coincidence, because several of my other adoptees was not based at a base that was somewhat near me. He said, hey, is there a chance I can meet you guys? And I was like, of course, because I would never ask that because we were sort of very clearly told not to. And the rest is history. We met when he got home, and he became someone, when he was there for several more months before he went back to the East Coast. He hung out with our family, went to a family wedding. And so it was like this bond formed. And then over time, that bond became family, and he traveled us with the family. And he's definitely, I consider him one of my kids. And this has all
Oh.
started from that experience. And actually, since then, I've said I've adopted 8. Actually, soldier number 2 is currently actually with my husband in Seattle right now, though he lives in Nebraska. He's actually was house sitting us while my husband was on this trip with us for a while. So, and we've had several of them now who we consider family. They've become very important parts of our lives. And then a couple of the guys, never heard from, not
Hmm.
one word.
Yeah, I think it is different. I mean, everyone you're going to hear on today's podcast, I don't know if it's attached to this segment or not, but you'll hear it on bigblendradio.com throughout this day. You can go see the archives too. Um, We've got some bed and breakfast friends. Tiffany's Bed and Breakfast just outside Hot Springs, Arkansas. The Lion and the Rose Bed and Breakfast here in Asheville. We met them through these kinds of programs, Soldiers, Angels. In fact, they connected and became friends too. So the Soldiers, Angels, all these innkeepers, some of them you'll hear them on Big Blend Radio. Maria Chamberlain from Oxbow Acres. It's a beautiful inn up in New Hampshire. Oh my gosh, the list of, and then the Bird and Butterfly Inn in Jasper, Texas. We all connected because of Soldiers Angels. They came on a
Mm-hmm.
podcast. We're like, you're doing something cool, for those who are in service and also for veterans. Most of them do this other program where they give away a night to a veteran or veteran family at their inns for Veterans Day or around Veterans Day every year. And so they're all doing something. They all are connected to the military through family service and, all kinds of things. And yet some just are, hey, we care. And I think this is something where you're just proving, and I think the fact that we're all connected through all these kinds of things just proves how one thing can have this giant positive ripple effect. This has changed both your lives. You have a travel blog together. You've traveled the world together and doing even what you're doing with the Warrior Wednesdays on social media is creating this, exposure to people that, we need to remember, numbers on a TV screen are humans. And so,
Yes.
Ryan, what do you think about this as a ripple effect? I mean, a box of goodies turned into like goodies for life. It's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I think goes to show you the importance. I mean, of what you do, what decisions you make, and how you go about things and how you take things. You can take something as it just, I could have just ignored the letter. I kind of feel bad because you receive a lot from random people. It might just be a random package that, hey, here's a pile of packages that random people sent, and they just sent it to our unit or to any soldier, and it just goes to the USO, and then you could grab one or something. And I never got around to writing anyone back. My first deployment to Afghanistan. And we were, I was always living in tents and just dirty and just we were, had it rough. So it was kind of like I don't have energy to do any of that. And it's like, whatever. And the next thing you know, I'm back home. And then I'm like, well, that's never got around to it. But then come my next deployment, that she was probably the first things that I received. And I mean, it was like the size, the box was like the size of like a small microwave or something. I mean, it was a pretty huge box. You can only imagine what was in there. I mean, I know there was like some CD. I think it was like I want to say it was Coldplay or something, because that was like one of the biggest new albums out or something at the time, and it had, all kinds of snacks and, everything. And I was like, man, I really have to write this person back, if anybody. I was like, this is, a lot of effort and, everything. And wrote back, and then eventually got, a couple weeks later, get a letter back, and then we exchanged emails, to make it a little faster. And then I just went from there, and I was, so you could clearly see that the person that she was, and getting to know her, and asking her about her family, and seeing like how they were, that it seemed like it was going to be a uh, more important than just, hey, thanks for the box, and then just they disappear, So kind of just seeing, I don't know, I want to say seeing opportunities, but seeing what's there in front of you sometimes. And
Mm.
it's funny how one little thing, you said, can just roll into another, and then, here it is almost 20 years later. So there's
Wow.
a lot of
That's a
stuff,
long time. Yeah, you guys have
yeah.
been together for longer than our podcast, which we're 18 years of podcasting. So I'm thinking back where we were. So yeah, we were in 29 Palms when you guys met. How about that?
Oh
Because
man.
I think we moved to 20, they did a mural because the soldiers in 29 Palms are the ones who took Saddam Hussein down, and you remember that, and
Hmm.
dragged the statue and all that. And
Mm.
that's the time frame we'd moved to 29 Palms. So like a military connection in a way, right? Just, yeah, isn't it wild? Like all the stuff that happens in life. And when someone shows compassion, and I love that Joelle was talking about how don't expect anything back because you're giving, you're truly giving, right?
Yes.
And you may never know, but you're just going, you're putting goodness out there. And that itself makes you feel good. But when you see the beauty of it coming back through in this way, and I think when you go through, it's actually a very emotional thing when you go through some rough times in life. And I'm sorry, but I think military life is really rough. And I really respect everyone who is in there doing it and getting dirty, like you say, Ryan. It's not hard, and I mean it's not easy. And at the same time, someone shows you compassion, and it's like, oh, that still exists. Because at times in life, sometimes you forget in the bowels of war and drama, and I can speak from this from being in the middle of that kind of thing through in Africa and stuff like that. I've been through it, stuff that people don't want to see, and you forget the other side of humanity, if that makes sense, Ryan. When people are show, hey, we are still human, we still do good things, because war starts to get like freaky about what humans do. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That yeah, it's like sometimes just takes you back and reminds you that
Well, it's all
Yeah. I
love
mean,
does
consuming.
exist.
It's all
Yeah.
yeah.
consuming. It's such negativity, and it's easy to get wrapped up in that negativity. And I know Ryan can speak to that because he's had some rough times over there when he was deployed. And to have some hope, to know, hey, someone cares, they love me, they're thinking about me, whatever the case may be, can make all the difference, especially after an extremely rough day and such pain or loneliness or whatever these various things these young women and men go through. They're alone there very often. Even though they're surrounded, at the same time they're alone, and they have to, have a certain kind of mental state. And they, some things you share, some things you can't share,
Hmm.
and just to have that little touch of reality. Hey, someone cares. Someone's spoiling me. When you feel, when you're away from your family, your child, the significant others in your life, it's got to make a difference. And I know Ryan can speak to that because he's been deployed several times.
And it's someone you don't know, right? That's the
Mm-hmm.
beauty of it. It's like your friends and family do things, but someone out of the blue shows, hey, I care. I took time out of my day and created something thoughtful. That shows humanity, right? That's that beauty of because you know your family's there. There's the caring, and it's not like we take it for granted, right? But when someone out of the blue does it, that's like, oh, that just kind of, I don't know. I think it's a beautiful thing, Ryan. That's cool.
You don't see it often enough, and I think that's the one of the biggest
Mm,
issues we have in the the world is people get just stuck in their whole bubble and stop caring about anything else around it because it doesn't affect them. And then, whether it's someone struggling or politics or war or whatever, it's, like you once you start just ignore it, eventually it will affect you in some way or another. So,
hmm
so why at least be compassionate a little bit, and maybe be that change that at least one person needs or could use, you know?
hmm Well, we're all connected. We are all connected. There's no matter what, and you're the biggest enemy we have in our lives, which is often ourselves. At times,
Yes.
um, the biggest enemy we have is actually connected in some way. Even just looking through DNA and all of that, if you really search it out, all species in some way are connected in the web of life. Even if it is, I'm going to eat you to survive, that is still a connection. And so we all need each other. And it's so true what you say, Ryan. It's like, you know, a war like the war in Ukraine does affect humans in America, right? It affects us. Even though you might go, oh, it's way far away, I don't need to look at it. It does affect us. Everything that happens in the world affects us. And it's our choice. And I think sometimes when it's distant, we kind of, turn an eye because it's not right there in our house. It's like when you see something like a hurricane. You can talk about that where we are right now. It's, all this recovery going on and after Helene, and it becomes this distant thing. I know, like Good Morning America did a whole thing on it, and they did an awesome job on the recovery of Helene in Asheville. But there's so many little towns and out throughout the southeast still really rebuilding, and it becomes this when it is a news story and it's all blown up. Everybody's like, oh, whoa, whoa, and then everyone forgets and goes on and like let's complain about whether or not I have grass-fed beef for dinner or
Yeah,
not.
exactly.
Do you know what I mean? And it's like yet these
Absolutely.
people are still battling over here, and then I know that from being in wildfires, like how it's like. I remember we went through. It was the beginning of this season of hell of wildfires that we went through, and our friend's house burned down, and their kids are now grown with kids and everything, and so we went and ran campaigns to get fundraising and all kinds of things, and then another fire happened, and our town became a source of arsonists trying to burn us off the mountain. One road in, one road out, and arsonists were doing stuff at the base of either side of the highway. And so we were all driving around with shovels to put out fires, and then a really big wildfire really did come and really hurt the town. We had two really big ones, actually. It was the largest wildfire in California at the time. And I went to go, the local church and everything had always had like donation bags of clothes. And so I was like, oh, cool, because they didn't have clothes. And I was like, here, take whatever in my wardrobe. Let's just, we were all just like, come sleep with us, come stay, not that way, and come stay at our house, we're going to make it work. But they ended up staying in a house next door to us, which was cool. But these were young teenagers, barely teenagers. And this, it's a traumatic thing to go through a fire. And so we had these clothes and we start going through and they had them in garbage bags. And I remember we started taking them out and what people had donated, there was a sanitary napkin stuck to a cummerbund in a bag of donated clothes. And we sat looking at each other and Nancy and I are horrified because we know that they're upset. So then we had to turn it into, well, let's just have fun because she was getting into modeling and, getting to that age of, being, I'm a young lady. So we turned it into like this comedy modeling show between the two of them, putting on clothes, the most ridiculous things that were in the bag, but they did find clothes too. So we had to take this very emotional moment there and turn it into fun. And I want to still ask those people, what were you thinking of donating just stuff that no one could use and was disgusting, to a church for people that needed clothes. Like, what is that? So when you see those kinds of things, you get upset. But then there's people like Joelle that remind us of just how powerful the other side of the coin is. So I think that's a lesson. Like when we give, truly give, and that's of people's time. If you're in a conversation, you don't need to have your nose on your phone. Actually, give the time to make those connections. And I think that's important when we look at Memorial Day. We're looking Memorial Day and Veterans Day. One is, for those who are still here, and Memorial Day is those who have passed. But I look at it all kind of, respecting the sacrifice and service and thinking about those in the past, like World War II. They didn't get goodie bags, at
No, they did
all.
not.
World War One did not. And then where you are in Turkey, I mean, you want to talk about war, the wars that went on in that region. Holy cow, man. So let's look at doing the right thing, for each other. And I want, Ryan, I don't know how to say this, but I would like to see more communication between those who do not serve, have not served, don't understand about the service, but connecting with veterans and those who are in the armed forces today that are on active duty. Is there a way that we can kind of communicate a little bit better than, just put a flag up and hope everybody thinks well? Do you know what I mean? So we don't have those weird things in donation bags, in other words.
Well, I mean, at least, I think if you want to talk about communicating with veterans and getting to know veterans and just showing that you care is look up your local VFW and look your American Legions and just go there. Most of them are pretty welcoming to other people, and you might have to pay like a dollar or two to get in, or somebody that's there might be like, I'll sponsor them, and you just sign your name in
Hmm.
and go. I mean, or you can just volunteer, and you can talk to veterans, from uh, World War II to now. A lot of times I mean, but they're slowly disappearing. So it'd be you know to be able to understand personally, some of the stuff that they've dealt with and through the years of these different generations and before they're gone, because they said, I mean, how many World War II vets are left,
Hmm.
um but
Yeah.
I'm a lifetime member of the VFW, um and I regretfully say I don't utilize them enough. I used to go to two different ones when I was living in Maryland, pretty regularly with a veteran friend. And then I moved and I moved again. I put all this other stuff, and I haven't been to one in a while. But a lot of them are underutilized, and especially by veterans, because these new generation of I will say kids because I feel old, and I by no means think I'm like some cool guy or anything like that. But it's sad that I consider myself like the old school guy, and most people, any slight generation above me, are probably like, no, you're a pansy, you're not old school. But I'm like, I wore BDUs, I wore the green, when I came in, I've seen many uniform changes since then. But when I was going to these places, I mean, you just start striking up conversations with people, and and get to kind of know them and what their stories. But they said they're underutilized, especially with the veterans these days, because the younger generations, they want to be cool and hip and Instagram and whatever, and they're not going to go to this old dark
Hmm.
outdated bar with a limited bar selection. They're like, they want a fancy mixed drink
Hey,
and
listen, by the way,
loud
they're
club music.
the cheapest drinks you'll ever get, the cheapest breakfast you'll ever get is at a VFW, right? It's I think you really bring a good point up because
No,
there's
they are
they
cheap. Yeah.
yeah, well, I'm not going on the
You get,
cheap side of it.
it's like $8 for a pitcher of beer. You're like,
Yeah, it's
well,
like I
what?
remember going in and spending like $2 on a well drink going, what the
Yeah,
hell? Where
yeah.
did
It's like, I
this
mean,
come
it's
in?
Like you're
Yeah.
not there to drink, fancy martinis and stuff. You're like there
No.
to like connect with others and to
Play
just,
pool. I used
and
to
so
play
if any
pool.
veterans are listening to this, especially young veterans, like go become a member. I mean, it's not even that for lifetime membership for VFW. I think, I mean, I forget how much I paid. I mean, I paid, I don't know, $350, I think, or something like that for like lifetime. Or you can pay yearly or something like that, but it's like it's way cheaper. Just it's like if you have the money, do it, and then start getting involved, and
Hmm.
invite your non-veteran friends to these little events that they do, whether it's a motorcycle ride or a cookout
Hmm.
or something, just to get people together and connect. Because especially with veterans, like you might find out that like, oh man, I have so many more veterans in my community than I thought or
Mm.
around, or you might even run into an old buddy and be like, oh, I didn't know he even lived in this state, let alone, X amount of distance from me. So that is definitely one thing I suggest for anybody, veteran or non-veteran, is get involved in those communities.
Yeah. When
The
we
other ones,
Well,
also,
I was gonna say the American Legions. That's where, like in Julian, when we lived in the mountains in San Diego, where the fires were. The American Legion, number one, always stayed open till the end of the night. It was one of the places you could go later. I'm talking about
Yeah.
when I was in my 20s. Okay, I was a good girl, but our band played there for free. And they were always involved with whatever community event was. So they always did the best 4th of July pancake breakfast. They were there throughout the day, and that's when our band played, at the Legion and stuff like that. And, that was the way, it was through those events that they would do all kinds of dinners and fundraisers for their members. And we did a radio show there. I think it was a 4th of July or Flag Day or something, or Memorial Weekend or something. We did a podcast there. This is when we were doing live shows through phones and internet because of the noise, because there was an event going on, right? And barbecue and everything. They built us, like we called it, the radio bomb shelter within the Legion. They created a studio for us, and we sat and we had some representatives call in for politically, some of the stuff they said I wanted to like just say, I wish you never called in, but they were amazing. It was amazing. The stories. We had a gentleman who was a Vietnam veteran who was in a wheelchair, had lost a limb, and he sat and in during this interview, we're all on phones. Like it looked like, a fundraiser for, public broadcasting, which we should all donate to, by the way. Just saying.
yes.
Um, I'm just saying, just got to throw it out there. But we're all sitting there on phones, yet he sat with his other friend had also gone to Vietnam, but in two different, places and everything. And he held my hand and he was shaking and telling stories. And he just started like saying just these stories that you will never hear. And it just being there to hear them, to be there, it was everything. And I'm sitting there like taking my foot and hitting my foot so I wouldn't cry. Like you couldn't, don't cry. I was like, there's that side of me. I'm like holding the phone and I can't pinch myself. Like, it was like crunching my toes. I'm like, you will not cry. You will not do it. This is not time, Lisa. Grow up. But I will never, ever, ever forget that. And I had musicians that I, work with on the shows and everything, and they had music there's a song Jimmy Yessian had written for his dad who was in World War II, and I played it, and then on the show, and I played taps at the end, and sadly Jimmy's passed. Now I am gonna cry. Dang it. Um, and he emails me after this. He's listening to the live broadcast, right? And he emails me. He's like, I never thought to play taps at the end of my dad's song. It was all about words that were not spoken because they're the silent generation. And so through these events,
Lisa,
you're
we
in a
lost you.
relaxed setting. Hmm.
We lost you there briefly.
Am I there again?
Now
Oh,
you are
I
now.
hear you. I still hear
Okay.
you.
Oh,
Okay. Through these events, you are more laid back and relaxed and conversation flows better through these events. You know what I mean? It really does. So Ryan, I think I'm so glad you brought this up. Now, Joelle, I know I interrupted you. I didn't mean to.
No, I think in other ways too, because I've several years after I started working with Soldiers Angels, I started volunteering at our local USO at the Seattle Tacoma Airport. And that really has made a big difference because where I was dealing with individual soldiers, I thought I want to help them as a group. And speaking to those conversations, the incredible conversations I have, because really at the USO and you're a volunteer, you're there to be a mom. You're there to, make them comfortable, relax, between flights and oh, can I give you a sandwich? Can I help you? Here, why don't you lay down, take a rest? Let me give you a blanket. And the conversations I had, the people I met over those years, whether it was the 18-year-old who just left home for the first time on his way to his first training, who was freaking out, or the ones that didn't even know how to figure out what a gate was at an airport because they'd never actually
Oh,
been
wow.
in an airport. Those connections, those are ways that people can help. And USOs are 100% volunteer based. They're not funded by the federal government. They're totally funded by donations. And that's a really good way for the community to give back to our military. And you're dealing with young and old because retirees are in there. And I'd had the most amazing conversations with some of the old World War II vets that would come through. And when you sit down and you give them your ear, the stories they will tell you, as you just said, they have a lot in them. And some of them said to me is, no one seems to care to hear my stories. No one wants to take the time to listen, or it's too hard for them to listen, so they sort of dismiss it. And sometimes all you have to do is listen and take that
And
time
kick
to tell
yourself
me.
while
Yes,
you're doing it. Yeah.
exactly. Just give them that space because many of them said, I've never even talked to my family about this because it was difficult and maybe you're that safe person. The other way to, if you don't want to commit to something regularly, VA hospitals are always looking for volunteers from either working to help orient people or maybe to connect with someone coming in who's disabled who needs a wheelchair pushed or VA homes, nursing homes. A lot of these people don't have family around. And so to just come and maybe once a month, sit with someone, bring them some fresh baked cookies, have that conversation, maybe take them for a walk outside or, wheel them around in a wheelchair, whatever you want. There's so many ways you could give back to these veterans who have given so much to us. But I think the biggest thing we can do for them is just give them an ear to pay respect, to thank them for their service, but then take the time to ask about their service. Now, if they don't want to talk about it, don't push it. That's absolutely acceptable.
Yeah.
But I have found almost across the board that they want to talk about it because not many people want to talk to them about it. And so just to listen and just acknowledge what they've been through or what they've seen makes all the difference. And there's so many different ways to do that. As Ryan mentioned, there's the different ways. And there's, I'm sure, many other ways, Soldiers Angels, other programs, these quilts for soldiers where groups of women will, predominantly women, will make these quilts that will give them to anybody who
Oh yeah, I have
served our
friends who do
country.
that. Yeah,
Yes,
that's what they do. They retired and that's their thing. They get together as a community in Three Rivers, California. I got to give them a shout out. And they do this every week. They get together, they quilt, and then they have a beautiful breakfast overlooking the Kauai River right at the gateway to Sequoia National Park. That's what they do. I think it's every Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken. I see them on Facebook every Tuesday. Here's our photos, and we're quilting. And I think that is fantastic. And so they have camaraderie. That's what I'm saying. Whenever you give, you're getting far more. You're always getting
exactly.
far more, and it's a beautiful thing. And like you say, just listening and actively
Mhm.
listening, not try to one up a
Yes.
story either.
Yep.
Yeah, that's another thing. Well, let's talk a little bit about some of your travels. I know you wanted to talk about a couple places. Definitely, again, everyone, Warrior Wednesdays, check that out on Wanderers Compass on their Instagram, especially Facebook, those two places. I know that's where you're active most, right?
Yes.
So you can learn about all these places we can go. And I know when you travel to places where there has been war, cemeteries, those kinds of things, museums, forts, all of that, castles, as we've talked about on the shows with you guys, um, it makes things real.
Hmm.
And so I think travel, I know it's growing. History tourism, heritage travel is on the rise, which I think is a good thing, especially people doing your family history to go to these places and connect with your ancestors for what they have sacrificed. And I think that makes things come home as well. So yeah, you both have a couple places you wanted to talk about. Joelle, did you want to start, or Ryan? Who's going first here?
Well, I could start and then Ryan could fill in because I think what it was most meaningful to him. But when our first trip together, which was 11 years ago, one of the things, because I had previously was I wanted Matt, that's my son's name, Ryan to, see the Normandy beaches, and not only that, but the American cemetery at the Normandy beaches. Because when I first saw it years before with my own family, I was it was powerful to me, very powerful to me. And maybe that's one reason why later on I even did this whole soldiery angels thing, because that was just the magnitude of the loss. The cemetery truly hit you there. And so one of our plans was to hit that when we got to France. And it was, I mean, just if anyone ever is in France, it is well worth a day or two to go up to the Normandy beaches as well as the American cemetery. It is powerful. And we've now been there 3 times actually, over the last 20 years of my life. And it was incredibly moving to see what it meant to Ryan when he got there, because I didn't know, at that point, it's the first time I'd really traveled with him. I wasn't sure if it was, how he was going to feel, but it was very interesting just to watch how the impact it had on him. Later on, we actually also went to the Florence Cemetery in Italy, the American cemetery there. The one in Normandy has, I think, around 9,000 um, people buried there, and in Italy, it's about 3,500. Both, I mean, the setting is gorgeous, but also the impact of the beauty of it and what it's done. And actually now, also when I'm home, like a Memorial Day, if I was home, I often would have go to the American Cemetery in Washington State in Tahoma, because that's also a very beautiful cemetery. It's my way of trying to pay tribute on Memorial Day. But it's, Ryan can speak to what those meant to him, because obviously to me, it had a different impact, but for him, it was really moving to stand back and watch, even photograph, without him realizing the impact it was having on him.
Mm. Yeah, go ahead, Ryan.
But yeah, I mean, it's just one of those places that it's hard to describe until you get there. I mean, you see the pictures, but once you're there, just seeing those lined up rows, really really hits you to see, the sacrifices made, and those are just small little, fractions of what, was given, just by us, and not including everyone else that was involved. And they always say it was the greatest generation, and in a lot of ways that it was, because I mean there was every war that came was something greater, and the stuff that they had to go through and see, it's hard to believe what they had to deal with, and being able to just walk around and kind of pay respects to that was pretty, an awesome experience. And another one is, well, obviously go to DC there in Arlington. I mean, it's kind of same feel. You got, people from all generations there, that have served, and just to see the people that are there that have made those commitments, made those sacrifices. I think everyone should go to at least one of them sometime in their life, if not all
Mm.
of them.
Mm. Nancy's reading a book on Arlington Cemetery right now, and the history of who was buried there, like all the different soldiers buried there. And I wish I had it in front of me so I could tell people the name. Um, but it's very moving, and also is there's, there was, until recently, is even taken down off the website, an African American kind of trail of, not a, I don't want to say like a trail like you're going, like a fun map, there's a whole section, like they mapped out where you can go and see those who fought in World War II and different battles actually, they're African American, which you think about these battles, of like the Tuskegee Airmen and I've got like so much respect for the Tuskegee Airmen, you
Hmm.
know, how they went through so much hell in our own country here and then fought for our country and
And
how,
many times performed better because they had a lot more to fight for.
yeah, they really did. And, it just and now I'm sad that some of that history is being erased right now. And so I think it's important that we do go get books that have all that information in and learn about it and go to places like the Tuskegee Institute. There's a national monument for them and go to Arlington, those kind of places because it also changed, for the airmen because they also went overseas and were treated
Yeah.
so much better. Didn't that help them too? You know?
Depending, yeah, and I mean, and this kind of history is important. I mean, all around because it's one of those, you know, the way a lot of people look at history, like the way a lot of history in America is taught. It makes it paints the picture of that we're just this beautiful, perfect winning machine, and we do no wrong. And I mean, that's all I saw when I grew up. I'm like, yeah, America, yeah, like and then I started learning more and more as I get older, and I'm like, what? We did what? This happened?
Hmm.
And I think it's a damn shame that we don't teach real history. We teach, okay, here's this important, here's this fact, here's this date, here's this victory, here's this thing. But like, well, what did we actually do to get there? What are the struggles that we went through to get to where we are today? And like, if you ignore a lot of that stuff, it's like that's important because you need to know how we got here. Like, to put this veil over everyone's eyes of like, oh, look, we're just great winning freedom machine. It's like we're not. It's been like that for since we were created. We've been doing a lot of great things. We've progressed, and we continue to progress. But there was struggles along the way, and there still are. And to say it didn't happen or to not teach it, it's not being genuine to everyone. And
Yeah.
those kind of things shouldn't be lost.
Like the Navajo code talkers, I go off on that all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about what they did, and also World War One was supposed to be the war that ended all world wars, right? And wars
Hmm.
it was to end all the wars, right? And it didn't. And so World War Two was surprising. It was shocking, when you think of that. And even World War One, I think World War One, we've forgotten a bit of that history, and that was, I mean, you've got to think at that time. I mean, where we are now today, we have Google, we have AI, right? You can sit and have a conversation with your computer and start to wonder, what the heck? Don't have that second of glass of wine and talk to your computer. That's getting weird. That's where we're at versus back in the day, and you think about how communication was through telegrams and we didn't have fax machines even then. We were doing Morse code and all kinds of things, and World War One, that was insanity. When you think
Insanity.
about it is. And then
Hmm.
for it to happen again, and look at the women, Rosie the Riveters, all the women that stepped up in different ways. And I always talk about this, the women and the kids always get hurt in war, even though there's that secret word that is never hurt the women and kids. Well, guess what? Every war touches women and kids.
Hmm.
Every
Yeah.
single one.
There's a
And
there's
it's
a there's a
wrong.
s- there's a song that I love called the Green Fields of France, and Dropkick Murphys covered it, which is like my favorite version. But it's a
I'll have
great
to check
song.
that out. I love the
But
Dropkick Murphys.
but
Yeah.
that song it talks about a World War One soldier basically, and or he's like walking the fields and he sits down by a grave site and starts just talking to a dead soldier there, and the whole song is basically about like, did you, believe it when they told you that this war would end wars? And it basically goes on. It's like, well, your fighting was just done in vain, and it just happened again and again and again. And it's like it's a super sad song because it's true. It's like then there's World War II, then there's Vietnam, and then there's Korea, and then there's stuff going on
The
right
Gulf
now, and
War. I
just
mean, come
this
on, the
Gulf
Gulf
War,
War, the
war on
Cold
terror.
War.
It's never stopped. It's like that we can't all just be like, hey man, like, it's like
Keep
there's not
off
gonna
the
be one
grass, man.
religion ruling the world. There's not gonna be one country ruling the world. There's not gonna be just like, can't we all just get along? Like,
No.
like
No, no. In the animal kingdom, it's about territory and food and water, right? And that's humans. Our wars were more territorial over time too, and then it got a little crazy. And I think greed came in somewhere. Greed and power held
yeah,
hands,
that's
and that was it. It's like
yeah.
somebody got a taste of that, and you don't really see the animal kingdom do that as much. You really don't.
Yeah, they
Um,
take what's needed and we take what's wanted.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. So, the people that are out there sacrificing, that's a huge deal. Like it is a huge deal. And, there's people that are drafted that, really have no, like, what's happening, So it's really very, very complex. And even doing podcasts like this, it's, everybody's always tiptoeys, So I really appreciate you both being on the show and just having a very honest, candid conversation that I think needs to happen a lot more in homes, in communities. I think in communities like going to the VFW or the American Legion and go to that pancake breakfast and see if, hey, can I help you flip some pancakes instead of always being on the other
Exactly.
side.
Yes.
I love this conversation. Go to the places, like Normandy. From what I understand, like there were people going before those who did the landing, right? There were the scouts, right? Or is that like the scouts, right, Ryan? They're like the ones who go in and kind of make things like
Yeah, well, yeah, we have scouts that yeah they'll go. There's pathfinders and there's all kinds of stuff.
those
But
are
I don't know.
that's
I really
crazy.
relearn a lot of the history of that too because I mean there's so much stuff that went on before, during, it's hard to remember. I mean, just on that one day, one day, let
Day.
alone the
I
whole
mean, it was
entire
like
war.
all these things that went up to it, and then you think about you're coming in on a boat, like enemy is there. Like you're in a boat. You're like a sitting duck in a way, right? And it's not warm, happy water. Didn't they
Yeah,
try to like
it's
attack them on the beach itself too? You had to go through obstacles, pretty much.
yeah, yeah. I mean, they had things that stopped tanks. They had mines. They had barbed wire and bunkers. I mean, it's weird because it's like you think of like all the way back from horseback and whatever and swords. Everyone just lined up in big groups and just clashed. And then it went to like all the way to Civil War, Revolutionary, Civil, where it's just like, hey, line up in a line, shoot each other. All right, go. And you're like, this is like, why did we do that? Like, and then we started, getting advanced, and it's like, oh, this makes sense. Let's do like all this like tactics and shooting, whatever. And then D-Day happened, and it was almost like kind of going backwards. We're like, hey, we're going to send a crap ton of people that way. I'm like, yeah, but everyone's there. Yeah, whatever. Just send them. You're just like,
And it's no
it's until,
party. Mm-mm.
yeah, yeah. And it's like, why, it's almost like, why did we do that? Like, there wasn't any other way. We couldn't have got just, better bombing or do anything, but it was like, that was like kind of the end all be all. It's like, if this doesn't happen, like, we don't think we're ever gonna, get where we need to be. So they just took the risk, and the weather happened to go into our favor, and it was like it's go time. So, you know,
Wow. Wow. It's just amazing when you think about it. And now we have drones fighting amongst, pilots, up at the sky,
Hmm.
drones and pilots at the same time. And nuclear war is always my biggest fear, honestly.
Yeah.
I
It
always
should
think
be all
that's,
our fear. Yeah.
yeah, it is. It is. And that's why diplomacy is so important. It's not just about being polite. And I think that's the other thing is just, yeah. Whew. All right, that's a whole other conversation, man. I know you guys have some exploring to do in Turkey. Is it Turkey? Turkey? Turkey?
Turkey
Turkey.
A.
Turkey. We're
Turkey?
learning. We're
Yeah,
learning.
Turkey. I like saying it that. Yeah, I got it now. Yeah, travel writer Terry Guthrie has been to Turkey as well, and she's been trying to get it. But yeah, Turkey A, trying to get it in my head. But it's we'll get there. We'll get there when
They
people
spell
want
it
to change
different.
your name.
They
Yeah,
spell it the way it looks. It's Turkey, Ye. So it's it. it makes sense when you look at how they put
Yeah.
on the signage. So it's we just call it turkey, but it's not what they do here.
No.
And I mean, we've been here only several days now, but we are absolutely in awe. It is beyond anything we expected. It's really an amazing country. The people have been amazing, the history, the culture, but it's a very cosmopolitan. It's very clean. The roads are wonderful. It's the food has been amazing.
Driving's easy. Yeah, food's
Driving's
awesome.
easy. Yeah.
Do not,
What?
do not
Huh.
drive. Yeah, do not drive in Istanbul though. That we did not do. But everywhere else, where highways, these little small towns we're going to now seems. I mean, like, I mean, our roads aren't this nice. I'm not gonna lie. Let's be
By
Really?
far. Oh, it's
no
absolutely.
pothole. I mean, sure, like I don't know, back alley. It's not we're going exploring every town, every little. But I mean, the highways, it's like not a pothole, not a crack. I'm like, what? Like what?
What?
Well, because they don't have to deal with plowing and salt and just snow, but still, it's like
Yeah, I
it's
think the
surprising.
East nailed my car like bad. Yeah. I need shocks. I mean, it's like every time I take the car and they're like, you need shocks. I'm like, what for? They're just going to go in 2 days because I'm going to go across the country again, you know? So it's the truth, but that's beautiful to hear. And well, I
Yeah,
hope you
one of my
guys,
new favorite
yeah.
countries. It's pretty awesome.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool when you get that excitement, right? Well, everyone keep following them at Wanderer's Compass, and also listen every second Monday. They're on Big Blend Radio, and their next episode is all about castles in Edinburgh with a little whiskey tasting and training in there as well, just for a good measure, right? So you guys have fun. Thank you so much, and think about you. And we can't wait for when you get home. But we're following your adventures. And boy, Joelle, did you have some fun adventures in Europe? I encourage everyone to go in the backlog of, if you haven't been following them, of what's been going on. Like this is, yeah. I'm just a tad jealous. Just saying.
It's been wonderful, and I can't. The next 2 weeks, I think, are just going to be as magnificent. So, I've been very, very lucky. But
Awesome.
thank you, Lisa. As always, a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you, Ryan.
Teşekkür ederim.
All right. Well, as usual on our Big Blend Radio Memorial Weekend Showcase, we always get to chat with some of our favorite innkeepers. We've got Steve and Karen. You know them as Mr. and Mrs. Wild. They're the owners and innkeepers of the Lion and the Rose Bed and Breakfast, which is right in the heart of the Montfort Historic District in Asheville, North Carolina. You can go check them out at lion-rose.com. They also have a podcast with us, Adventures in Asheville, every first Tuesday. So, Miss Karen, how are you doing?
I'm good. How about you?
Doing good. Mr. Steve, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. How about you?
Yeah, doing good. I'm hoping that we get to have a little bit of that dirty Godiva beer before we start heading west on our next adventure. Are you holding
Mm-hmm.
like a glass for Nancy and I? Otherwise, we're gonna cry, you know.
No, we have
Oh,
some
wait,
for
going
you.
fast.
No,
Uh-oh.
we have some. We do. We have it.
All
Man,
right, if you say so.
I've got things to trade. I've got things to trade. Tasty goodies to trade. But all right, so our next guest is also no stranger to Big Blend Radio. Tiffany Bertram, her and her husband Bob own and run Tiffany's Bed and Breakfast in Bismarck, Arkansas. Now, Bismarck is right outside Hot Springs. It's beautiful. They have so many acres of land. It is spectacular, and you can go to tiffany'sbedandbreakfast.com to learn more. So welcome back, Tiffany. How are you?
Thank you, Lisa. I'm good.
Good. Good to have you back. Is it all green and beautiful?
Oh, it's so green and beautiful right now.
Mm. It is. This is
Perfect,
like,
perfect weather to come to Hot Springs.
yeah, it's not, you haven't hit those temperatures yet, right? So it's,
No. We don't talk about
perfect.
those.
Oh, okay, okay. But listen, you've got lakes around you with bald eagles. Speaking of, some American patriotism,
Exactly.
you've got the bird.
Cool.
in your backyard, and barred owls. Tiffany, I want you to know I had a conversation with a naturalist on a podcast the other day. This has nothing to do with Memorial Day weekend and military history or what these three amazing innkeepers do for veterans, but we're getting there. But this is important since we're talking about birds. So we've met Stephen, Karen, and Tiffany during the pandemic. So this is a cool story. They were part of a program and a campaign called Still in Biz, or Still in Business, and that's in with INN, right? And we came out and visited them all and did podcasts and stories, and we've been friends ever since. And then we started doing these shows, like one's talking about what, these innkeepers do for active service and also for veterans on Veterans Day. They bake cookies and treats. They do all kinds of amazing things. But when the first time we visited Tiffany and Bob, they have just this beautiful log cabin style bed and breakfast, like I was saying, over 50 acres, right, Tiffany? And you
Right.
guys have to visit each other. This is, you have to read. You have to visit each other.
We talked about it.
Yeah, you have to.
We have to make it happen yet. Yep.
Yeah, because
Exactly.
you both have some similarities. We all of us love wildlife and birds and nature. We all support the military. We all love good music. So, like, this is a party, y'all. And everybody has a certified backyard wildlife habitat certified through the National Wildlife Federation. We've done shows on that with you. You all know how to bake, and we all like a nice glass of wine on a patio. So anyway, or whenever everybody drinks something different, beer, all of that. But the first time we were there, I think it was the first or second evening, Bob and Tiffany's patio overlooks the grounds and Bob's garden. Bob really's got the green thumb. And these owls there was this owl couple with their little owlet, and there were fireflies. I mean, this was the first time we'd seen like mass fireflies for Nancy and I. And I mean, other than in Africa, it was just mass fireflies. And these owls were dipping down, and we all were like looking up what this owl was because it was getting dark, and we looked it up, found out it was a barred owl. And I kept thinking Tiffany was saying barn owl, but it's a barred owl with 2 R's. And anyway, and the hummingbirds, we were talking about hummingbirds, and we were putting things up on iNaturalist. You guys started having hummingbird people come over, and all kinds of cool stuff was happening with the bird life. But we were all sitting there going, well, what's going on? Didn't we think the barred owl was teaching the baby owlet how to hunt? So it was just apparently... dead wrong. So I had a naturalist. Yes, Charles Hood was on our show. He has written over 20 nature books. He's a science writer. He's traveled all over the world from Antarctica to Kenya. Actually was there. I think we just missed each other. Really, he's spotted over 1,000 mammals. His latest book is called Nature at Night. And talks about watching wildlife. So I bring up the owl story, and he's like, "Oh yeah, that's really cool." And he was like, "Lisa, you've seen tons of fireflies in Africa, just they're a different name and a different species." And then I was like, "Oh yeah, they're lightning bugs." He goes, "No, that's not a firefly, just related to." So I'm like, "Okay, apparently I know diddly squat, right?" And this man is such a gentleman, right? He's gone through the boonies of South America and Africa, but he's a gentleman. And I tell him about this, here comes the owls, and he goes, "Well, we need to do a footnote for your listeners. They are not hunting fireflies. They do not bother or waste their time eating fireflies, even with babies. They were getting whatever was down by the little creek. And they, if you have, those kind of bigger things, they'll get those.
Okay.
So, but they're really good
they
for
were
your
still
property.
hunting, just not
little
fireflies.
not little fireflies. No, they are going
Gotcha.
after any
They're looking
kind
for
of
bigger stuff.
Yes, and so he says that the way you have your property set up is perfect. You've got natural pest control. You have, it's like you've got a clean property because of these birds. Isn't that cool?
Right.
So yeah, it's cool.
Neat.
And Yeah, they'll eat everything. Snakes, you name it. They'll eat everything. And the last time we were there, I went walking with Buddy the dog, and a barred owl was right there in the forest. And I was telling him all about your forest.
Mm-hmm.
So Steve and
Very
Karen, I'm
cool.
just saying, you guys would just, yeah, you would love
Oh,
it.
I know. We'd love, absolutely.
And then, I'm just going to say
Mm-hmm.
Tiffany and Bob going to, the Lion and the Rose, a beautiful Victorian with beer. They love music, great brownies too. You guys will have to have a brownie off. You know, you both have good brownies, both have amazing breakfast, but they have bear. So there you go. Maybe you'll see bears in their
Yeah.
backyard.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Hmm.
and you've got music venues in Asheville, and so there's a lot you guys can experience. But anyway, just wanted to give you an update on the barred owl since we've been, carrying that
Cool.
memory.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh-huh.
just
That's very cool.
duh. I always I didn't think I just didn't think that owls would not eat bugs, but apparently not at all. They do not do bugs. So,
Interesting.
yeah, yeah. So you got
Hmm.
pest control. You got full pest control,
Yeah.
which is good.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about the
Yeah.
military side because all of you are a part of this campaign. We've had a lot of other innkeepers do this too. So, Tiffany, I want to
Hmm.
start with you. So Bob did serve in the military, right? So that's a part of the
He
connection for
did.
you guys. Did any of your
Correct.
families
He is an
serve as well?
Bob's got lots of family members. His dad, an uncle, several. I have an uncle that did, but yeah, he is an Air Force veteran, so that's part of our appeal, doing
Well,
what we
yeah,
can these days for veterans and
that's
the active
awesome.
duty.
And active duty, so both. And
Mm-hmm.
Karen, for you guys, it's really your family that was in the military, both of you, right?
Yep. My dad, Steve's dad, my cousin was also.
Ah, and I think for the longest
Hmm.
time we thought, Steve, you were in the military too, for some reason.
No, not me.
No, but
No, my
it's
mom talked me out of it.
wow. So you wanted to go? You did? You wanted to
I
go
planned
into
on it. Yeah.
what did you want to
In
do?
high school, I had nothing better to do. I was going to join the
Oh,
army.
just join the army, huh? Well, hey, now you're cooking amazing breakfasts and going hiking in
Yep.
amazing
Yeah.
places. Yeah. Well, the
Hmm.
military part, I mean, I think what's so cool is, it's Memorial Weekend, so we look at remembering those who served, and Veterans Day are those who are still serving and or have retired
Hmm.
from service. But I love that both properties, all of you, do take care of all sides of it. So when people
Right.
come out to your area, Tiffany, and if they want to look up some military history, where do you send them?
It's really easy. When you come into downtown Hot Springs, there's this huge building sitting up on the hill that you can't miss. And everybody asks us what it is. It is the former Army Navy Hospital, which was built it was originally built in the 1800s. It was the first joint hospital between the Army and the Navy. And after World War II, every service member was processed through the hospital here in Hot
Ooh,
Springs. So
wow,
a
Wow.
lot of
Hmm.
military people came through Hot Springs at that time.
wow,
Hmm.
wow. And then what
And
about
it's
for you?
right next to
Oh,
Hot Springs National Park. So you can't
Yeah.
miss it when you come into Hot Springs.
huh.
Hmm.
We'll have to look more closely on that. That's amazing, though, right? And I wonder how it played out throughout history with hot springs, with the actual hot springs itself, and how people,
Mm-hmm.
came to hot springs for the medicinal property. Everyone from,
Mm-hmm.
the the mafia to baseball players. You know, there's a, so I wonder, like, what, throughout the year it's got to be there's got to be good stories in that behind that over the
Oh, you know
years.
it.
Yeah.
You know
Hmm.
it.
Shenanigans.
And I believe I read, so it was the leading medical facility in the country for treating patients with arthritis. And they were dipping them in the hot baths with thermal water. So kind of makes sense that would help your arthritis.
You know what? On top of that is you can go to Superior Brewing Company and have one of the beers made from that thermal goodness, right?
Right.
So
exactly.
There you go.
The only one in the
yeah.
It's the only brewery in a national park and the only one in the world to brew their beer with thermal water.
Very
See?
interesting. Cool. Yeah.
Isn't it cool?
See, okay, Steve and Karen,
Very.
again, another reason. Are we doing the road trip show
Exactly.
already? Like, I know we're crossing things again, but that's okay. But listen, a lot of military service folks I know want to go have a good beer. I'm just saying. They do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Does
True.
hot spring?
That's
It's
true.
not still in service because that would have even made them feel better. Just get treated at the hospital and then go have a beer at Superior.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And when people go to hot springs, the travelers, are there any? Do you know of any programs? Like, do you guys have like Veterans Day parades, Memorial Day events, and does the community itself, do things like some of the restaurants and stuff like that, do things for service people, active service?
Yes.
And
We have a huge fireworks display on Memorial Day weekend. Veterans Day, they do have there's a small veterans park right downtown, and they have a service for that. Several of the restaurants in town do free meals for veterans on Veterans Day. So, yeah,
Cool.
it's a popular thing to take care of our veterans. And in fact, on Memorial Day weekend this year, we've got a traveling version of the Wall of Vietnam that's coming through here.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
interesting.
wow.
Yeah, it's really neat.
Will it stay? Will they leave it there for a while?
It's here. I don't remember exactly how many days, but I mean, it's not like a long time, but it's at least Memorial Day weekend.
Oh,
It's
that's
here.
amazing. Wow, that's
Very cool.
that's cool that they're even doing that,
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's been here once before, but yeah, it's just kind of a mini replica of the wall. All the names are on it. You can
Wow.
let you look up names and stuff, and it's really a neat deal. If it ever comes through your town.
Yeah, I would
Yeah,
want to
that sounds
go
very
for
cool.
sure. It's just it's
Definitely.
because things like that make it so real. And I feel like
Right.
sometimes
Yeah.
when we talk about military service or wars and battles, um, and sometimes skirmishes are actual battles, just saying, um,
Mm-hmm.
it feels so distant. When you watch it, we
It does.
become numb as humans. We become numb to bad news, right? But it
Right.
becomes very real when you go to places like that. It becomes, you start to get the stories of the people, and that's what makes you
Yeah.
realize the sacrifice. And Mir Bahmanyar, oh my gosh, I'm going to butcher his last name. I'm sorry, Mir, and he's going to be on the same show. He served in the Rangers. And he was on the podcast with the Houdini Club is his book, and he's written a number of books. He's like the ultimate historian, military historian, and helped produce movies like We Were Soldiers, and I mean, like it's insane. Mir Bahmanyar, there I got it now. And so I was saying to him about it's thanking people for their service, and he says, "No, thank you for your sacrifice." And I was like,
Yeah.
oh,
Mm.
boom,
Mm-hmm.
boom.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that more
Sure.
realistic? Because
Yeah.
Absolutely.
some who have served, especially World War II, Vietnam, some of, people were drafted, and next thing you know, you're in the middle of you're in Vietnam. Hell yes, no wonder people
Right.
were doing purple haze and stuff. You know what I mean? Thank God for Jimi Hendrix
Mm-hmm.
backing that up too. I mean, you're in
Mm,
something that you did not expect, you did not sign up for. You are that's your life is on the line, whether you wanted to put yourself there or not. Um, and so
Absolutely.
when you say thank you for your service, and maybe they didn't want to be there at all and even wanted to go AWOL, it's sacrifice is a sacrifice, no matter how
Right.
you ended up there. And I think that's something to think about when we look at Memorial Day. We're again looking at those
mm-hmm.
who have passed, but I look at it, it's family, it's
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
family.
Yep.
So sacrifice is
Mm-hmm.
sacrifice. So when we go to Asheville, Steve and Karen, I was going to say the one thing is when we went on the tour with Uncle Ted, the Grain Line
Yes.
tour, that was
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to just say that to me personally, I think was one of the greatest ways to learn a little bit about the history of Asheville. And they did include
Definitely.
some incredible military stories that I cannot retell, but you do want Ted to
Mm-hmm.
tell you. And they're
Yes.
amazing. They have a whole slew of amazing people working there who tell the stories of Asheville, which are diverse and crazy, just like Hot Springs. Another reason why you need to visit each other, your city's stories of Hot Springs versus Asheville. We should do that. Let's do a Hot Springs versus Asheville show once you guys go and visit each other, because the craziness is
That sounds
there.
fun.
There's crazy
Yeah.
stories for sure.
Uh-huh.
And you all have,
It
yeah,
sounds
yeah.
fun.
I think I just want to be there when all of you are visiting each other. I want to be both places at once.
Are
That's the
you going to
problem.
supervise us?
I don't know, but I feel like we need a van and we should just go on a road trip together. That's what
There
I
you
Yeah.
think.
go.
I know the music is covered. My God. I mean, could you imagine?
Yeah.
We'll get pulled over for the volume alone. We'll all get pulled over. Innkeepers pulled over for loud music. Isn't that great? That would be great. Um,
Yeah.
I
Mm-hmm.
know. But yeah, in Asheville, where would you send guests when they want to look up some of the military history? I know you've got some cemeteries, like the one behind you has a
Right.
military. The is it Riverside Cemetery
Right.
behind you?
Riverside Cemetery. Yes, correct.
Huge
So
military
Asheville, yeah,
area.
like the trolley. I'm not going to get in the deep stories, but Asheville was a major Confederate military center during the Civil War. The Battle of Asheville, which they talk about on the trolley in a bit more detail, only lasted a few hours. But the location of where that happened is now UNC Asheville, so that's like a mile from us. And then we have Riverside Cemetery just a couple blocks behind us, where you have like the wartime governor Zebulon Vance is buried there. There's more than 250 Confederate veterans that are buried there. And then there's the downtown. Steve knows more on that. The downtown. There's like lines in certain locations.
Well, Steve, isn't there a lot of people buried downtown? You can, as you walk through.
Well, they say
There
on Church
are.
Street, there's a
On
lot of
Church
people buried
Street.
underneath the street.
There are. See, I told you,
Yeah, that's
Tiffany,
creepy.
because
Yeah.
of there was it yellow fever that got him or something? And
I'm
is
pretty
that the
sure,
right?
yeah.
I don't know what
Mm,
country we're in. Yeah.
I think
The
that was it. Yeah.
yeah, and they just had so many bodies pile up that they just had to bury him, and then they put the churches on top. So,
Wow.
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. And there's a story about a nun
Yeah.
and a priest who, did the shenanigans. And then,
Uh-oh.
anyway,
Mm,
Hmm.
yeah, you have to go on the trolley tour for that one. I'm
naughty,
just gonna
naughty.
put the
Yeah.
sizzle out there. Yeah, well, she's in that street too now. But anyway, and then there's the architect got
Yeah.
who um, buried. He ended up
He's
buried
buried in
within
the
the church.
basilica.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
crazy. Yeah, you
Mhm.
guys,
Yep. We have
like,
some weird, creepy history. Yeah,
yeah,
we
it's
do.
Hmm.
you guys are almost in line with New Orleans on some things, both of Hot Springs and Asheville. I'm just saying, but yeah, Steve, downtown, do you have some memorial sites, right? And some of that where people can go and pay tribute or honor, I should
Yeah,
say,
they used
not
to have those
tribute.
They used to have a Vance Monument, but they took that down because somebody got upset about it. But
Oh,
Well, there still is the Vance birthplace where he was born. You
yeah,
can still visit that, and that's just above Asheville. So, and they do tours over there. So there are still other
yeah, that'd
sites,
be
but
neat.
like Pack Square used to have like an old Confederate prison. It's obviously not there now, but just like going in Pack
Hmm.
Square and thinking that all this stuff happened back in this area is just kind of weird, you know.
mm. Well, and the
But they used to have
Confederate
a
side
Robert
of
E. Lee
things.
monument and everything too.
Oh, really? Yeah, I get people
Yep.
not wanting to honor Robert E. Lee. Um, I just wish they took those kind of statues and put them in a place or put the full story there. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
it,
Yeah.
yeah,
it's,
yeah.
you know what I
Yeah. A
mean?
lot of
It's
ignorance
a,
involved.
there's when you think about the Civil War, it it wasn't it was also about people protecting their property. There were
Mhm.
multiple reasons for that war. And so it's yeah, the history and there were families that were divided, that were Confederate and Yankee,
Right.
that were in the same family. And we're kind
Mhm.
of getting that way in this country at this point,
Hmm.
and it's unfortunate,
Mm.
but if we go and really look at the history, we can get some knowledge and learn more and maybe unite instead of do that,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we've got, when we go to war, it's kind of like that last stand, it's
It is.
and so when we think about those who sacrifice and serve and put their life out on the line, you've got to think, how bad were things getting to get to that point? And of course, every war has a different story, but Memorial Day and this weekend, I think it's time to reflect on those sacrifices and hope that we don't have
Mhm.
to get to those points again. Because do we want to lose our family and friends in a war when we can maybe prevent? It's like our bodies. Uh-oh, I shouldn't talk
Yeah.
about preventative medicine as I take a sip of wine. No. But you know what I mean? It's maybe we can do better, you know?
Right.
That's
Mhm.
just
I
kind of my
agree.
my part of it,
Hmm.
but unfortunately,
Yeah.
we humankind doesn't always do that as well. But so
I
we've
know.
got these places for the other thing about these sites is family history. Have you found that when people
Mhm.
come to the inn, Steve and Karen, that people are looking up family history in Asheville too, and kind of looking to see, oh, I have like a grandmother or a grandfather or a great 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 aunt or something. They want to go kind of connect
Definitely.
with their family.
Hmm.
That's
Mhm.
cool.
We've had several people here that either had some kind of connection, whether their family owned the inn as a house back in the day, or they knew somebody who did and had visited here. So we love hearing those stories and hearing more about how things were back then and just like how things have changed and different perspectives. Love hearing more of that history.
Mm, exactly. Now, does that
Hmm.
happen for you also, Tiffany, with people coming to check up their history? I mean, you have a mine on your property, so I wonder about people wanting to go see where their
Mm.
ancestors worked in the mine, the Bismarck mine.
I actually have recently met a great, I think it's a great grandchild of the people that owned this property when the mine was in operation. So,
Wow.
and she actually
Very
she actually lives
interesting.
here in Bismarck. So she's filling me in on all kinds of new and cool stuff about our property.
Cool.
Wow. Wow. And what about the family history of
Hmm.
people coming to, do people come to Hot Springs to, because that's what's kind of interesting about Hot Springs too, like Asheville, it's places that people came to a lot, Um,
Right. Mhm.
so it like people will go, oh, like maybe their relative, one of their relatives was a baseball player or in the mob, or
Sure.
there's a lot more. There's a lot more to Hot Springs, honestly. In the Native
Oh yeah.
American culture on both of your cities
Yep.
is so deep and rich, and may we not
Mhm.
forget all the Native American soldiers, World War II Navajo
Yeah.
code talkers. We've,
Right.
our military,
Mhm.
we've got to think, it's like the Tuskegee Airmen. I got to think about that story of the Tuskegee Airmen, and but the Navajo Code Talkers was in Gallup, New Mexico. They have this memorial to them all, and that's where a lot of them were, from. And
Mm-hmm.
you walk by, and they have like this archway area, and it's in a plaza outside the courthouse. And in summer, actually, it starts Memorial Weekend, so it's a good time to talk about it. They have these. I think it's the Friday night dances. I don't know if it's Friday or Saturday or Sunday, but it's like once a week, Native American dances and music and entertainment. And what's really great is it's interactive and it's educational, and they do allow you to photograph as part of it all to understand the culture. And it's, if you go in a pueblo, please don't take your camera out. Like, these are human beings that
Right.
they're not in a zoo. And we shouldn't be doing that to
Yeah.
zoos anyway, zoo animals, but you know what I mean.
Mm.
So
Mhm.
it's a little different because it's an educational entertainment style, and man, it was so moving to be there, and then you see this memorial of all the Navajo Code Talkers and other veterans from the area. It's just when you think about the sacrifice, what we did to the Native Americans, as Anglos coming over here, take their land, do all this stuff, cut their hair off, put you in these schools that you didn't want to be in, and move you away from your land and territory, and then wait, please go fight in a war. you know, it's pretty amazing. So, I just think that
It is.
about both your areas, when we talk about military history, that's part of it too. And your areas
Mhm.
also came in on different wars, like the Battle of 1812 or the War of 1812, Battle of New Orleans. Native Americans came in and fought there, whether or not they were soldiers, went in and and just they were badass, man. If it wasn't for them and pirates and
Mhm.
stuff like John Lafitte, we wouldn't have some of the Southeast that we have now. So I'm just saying.
True.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, sorry, I got all off tangent, but yeah, genealogy wise, I can imagine
It's cool.
so many people going to Hot Springs for that just because so and so was there at some point. I know college towns are like that
Right.
too. But
Mm.
yeah, do you see that, Tiffany?
Um, I do a little bit. I don't think we've necessarily had many guests doing that, but yeah, there are a lot of people that, my grandpa was treated here in the baths for whatever, and yeah, there's
What did Grandpa do?
who who
Sorry.
knows what
Yeah.
who knows how many people came through Hot Springs to be treated in the
Yeah.
thermal baths and then the Army
Wow.
Navy Hospital and you
Wow.
name it.
Amazing.
Mm.
Yeah. I wasn't laughing about military grandpa or something. I'm just saying.
We
All
know
right.
that.
So let's talk about what
Yeah.
you all are doing for active duty now. So are you baking, Tiffany? Are you doing the soldiers?
Am
Is
I?
it sol? Yeah. Are you baking this year?
We are. We actually bake every month,
Oh,
but
That's awesome.
May
You're
is an
still doing
extra
that.
special month.
okay.
Yeah,
Mhm.
thanks to you
That's
guys. So
yeah. So glad.
the baking for the troops works with soldiers soldiers angels, which Stephen
Mhm.
Karen introduced us to, and we just thought it was such a great program that we joined them. So once a month we send out a box of cookies and brownies and whatever else we can come up with to an active duty service member. And I think we've been doing that since probably 2021.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
That's
2020 is
amazing.
when I think you did the first year. So 2020.
Yeah, I think we did, and I think we joined Soldiers Angels
Hmm.
the following year.
Yeah. Very nice.
Wow. So, Stephen Garen, you've been doing that a while too, and you bake and then you send it out to active
Mhm.
duty. Wow. So,
Yep.
okay, what
So
did what?
normally
Go ahead.
we normally do the baking. This year, because of all the things we have going on, still trying to get things in order after lovely Helene, I didn't do baking this year. So I did one of the other programs where cards, and we decided to give somebody a free night, and the other we gave a gift certificate to. So
Oh,
something easy you could do, but something that besides a card, they'll get something a little extra special, something they didn't expect. So hopefully it's a nice
yeah.
surprise for a couple of people.
That's really
Nice.
nice. No, that's
Hmm.
the point, right? Is that connection where you're there, it's the thought, and
Right.
gosh,
Exactly.
imagine getting gift certificates and things. That's beautiful. And home baked
Yeah.
goodies, that's a good thing,
Hmm.
especially if you're out there. It's like, oh yeah, let's have that. Now, Steve and Karen, are you still doing the Veterans Day program?
Absolutely. Yep. We will be. Absolutely. Last year that we weren't able to because we weren't open because of the whole hurricane thing. So absolutely this year we are back on that for sure.
Tell everybody what you do.
So we offer a free night, and we do it as a contest to make it fair to everybody, where we just have them enter their what branch of the military they were in, just their contact information, and we randomly draw a name and give them a free night stay, either on Veterans Day or right around it.
Oh, cool. Cool. Tiffany, do you
Mm.
still do that program too?
We do. Yep. Every year.
Awesome.
Yep,
Awesome.
awesome.
So, everyone, you can go to lion-rose.com to learn more. And Tiffany's bedandbreakfast.com. As always, the links are in the episode notes. In closing, Steve, I'm thinking, a veteran style beer. I'm just thinking, you know, yeah,
Mhm.
kind of like for Veterans Day or like Memorial. I know Dirty Godiva's still there, which is a chocolate stout.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. But have you thought of doing
Uh-huh.
like a military themed beer?
I
You know?
haven't. I have to look into that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, we
I
got
mean,
time. You figure we got time to think about that. We can plan for Veterans
I'm
Day and
thinking
figure out something.
There you go.
I got the name, the salute.
Oh, okay. Do
Because
tell.
cheers, you go salute, right? Salute,
There you
salute,
go. Yep.
salute, the salute.
Mm.
Yeah.
I
Perfect.
like
Yep.
it.
Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
I would like to taste the salute and say salute. Salute. That's
Yeah.
good. I'm just saying. Just an
Sounds good.
idea.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all
It's a
so
Yeah.
good
much for
idea.
what you do for the active service, and thank you so much for and just being on the show and just having a great conversation and fun and shenanigans as always. We can't have you guys on the show without being silly, so appreciate that
Mm-hmm.
too. Tiffany, thank you so much. We'll see you hopefully as we travel west. We'll be in touch, and Steve and Karen, we'll be
Sounds
chatting with you
good.
soon for your next episode. Thanks
Yeah.
so much,
Sounds
everyone.
good. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for listening to Big Blend Radio. Keep up with our shows at bigblendradio.com.